So what we're talking about specifically is city contracting for minority and women-owned businesses. Now, again, this study said you have no factual predicate to continue a discriminatory policy. You're saying, there are still problems. This is city contracting. Who in city staff is the problem? Who are the crypto racists that are, not giving out contracts according to merit, that are rather like giving it to white guys instead of, again, the minorities covered by this program? It seems to me if the city has a problem, it's because the city is acting in a bad way.
I would argue that the 300-page study, which you have likely read, is more than just an evaluation of 5 guys and gals at City Hall to see kind of what their feelings are. This looks at opportunity in the market. To what extent does an entity that is managed by somebody from one of the different groups, right, have the chance to succeed? To what extent do they get opportunities in jobs that aren't actually provided for that, right? You're listening and looking at a lot of projects right now throughout our region. Let's just use, for example, the Chiefs Project. You have the Olathe Project and others. None of the contractors thus far discussed have actually been any of the contractors from groups that you have described thus far.
I understand that, sir, but this firm does this for a living, right? They were vetted, I presume, by the city years ago when they were hired. I imagine you received a number of bids, but you went with Griffin and Strong. They looked at 7 years worth of contracting data. And again, the woman who presented, who did an excellent job, was almost apologetic in telling the city, you don't have what you need to continue offering this program. She offered alternatives, but the council was very hostile. And then you said what you said at the end. What I'm trying to understand is we have research that says discrimination, doesn't seem to be a problem in city contracting, yet the city doesn't want to change its discriminatory policy. And I'm trying to understand, is the study the problem? Are there staffers who are bad actors? But you can't just say, well, we've got problems if they don't show up in the data.
I think that what you could say are a few things. First of all, what is the legal materiality of the study itself? And frankly, do you look at the timing of the study, which does date back a bit? You note the 7 years. We actually took some time to get the presentation. So to your question of, do you keep doing studies? The answer is actually yes. We kept doing studies to make sure we could still have the program too. So it's not like you wave a magic wand, you say, we fixed everything and America's a better place. Instead, what you need to do is make sure that you're looking at the most recent data. How do you continue to make sure that you're looking at what are the market trends on opportunity for firms of different types?
Have you done that?
And you address your policy. So what we're doing right now is the mandated, you got to do community engagement. Heck, you have to do that in every federal grant too, throughout the summer. I mean, I've read some of your work and others. It's not as if we just put our heads in the sand and said, hey, maybe we'll wait out the rest of the Trump years and hope nobody figures out. Instead, we have conducted community studies. We're doing the necessary talks. I think you likely are going to see legislation soon. I don't think it's the sort of thing that needs Missouri taxpayer time wasted even further on more lawsuits between the state and the city. But I think we are doing exactly what you're laying out. I just don't believe necessarily that it suggests that we are forever cured from all remedial programs, which, by the way, exist in jurisdictions all around us, including the state of Missouri, not to mention Kansas, not to mention parts of the federal government.
But I presume that they, if they've hired Griffin and Strong would tell them different. Like, yeah, you still do have a problem that allows you to discriminate in such a way. You talk about, you kind of question, well, we've got to do this and we've got to do that. We've got to look at more recent data. Maybe we have to look in other places. Those are fair questions, but they're just questions. Has the city done any of that? Do you have evidence that contradicts Griffin and Strong's conclusions?
I believe that the city actually is doing that work now. That would be in our procurement office, the city manager's office. I think they continue to do that work. They've continued to conduct, I think, surveys of businesses in our community, and I'll look forward to hearing how that all goes. After our meeting, the direction of the city staff was to continue on the process of what is the necessary engagement after you get the study back. We have not been presented an ordinance yet. I'm not going to presuppose what comes out of it, but I have confidence in the city manager, confidence in the city staff to make sure we get it right. And if you want, I imagine that will all come out in discovery and depositions in the Attorney General's wasteful lawsuit soon.
What would it take to convince you that these discriminatory programs are no longer necessary?
For me, and I actually am one who has been actually thinking and talking about this since I was a student. I mean, it's fair to say any of us who read and I won't get too boring, but who read the early 2000s University of Michigan affirmative action cases, where Sandra Day O'Connor said, I hope these programs are basically gone in 25 years, or I may not see the need, saw that these are not forever programs, and the Supreme Court seems to be proving that out right now.
So what would it take? What piece of information would it take in Kansas City or of Kansas City for you to say, yeah, we don't need to discriminate based on race and sex?
On this, I'll have to go more anecdotal, although I know there certainly is documentary information to be clear to me. I think that we look to more opportunity in the market for woman-owned firms, minority-owned firms that isn't just in what I would call, and they're important pieces, so I don't mean to undermine anyone's work, but in material, substantial pieces of big construction jobs, of which we have many in this region. So you and me, we'll drive to Panasonic's project. We'll drive to whenever the heck they start building things for the Chiefs, probably the Olathe project first. We'll look at the Royals project and we'll see, to what extent do we have broad-based firm representation that doesn't come from government programs that I think starts to prove for us that fair opportunity long-term.